everybody, it's good to see you. Today we're at one of my favorite gardens in Omaha, which I thought was appropriate because I want to talk about this relatively cheap macro lens from Laowa. It's the Laowa 100mm 2.8 2-to-1 macro lens. It's called the Dreamer. And I bought this lens about a year ago, right at the end of the, kind of near to the end of the summer season. And I ended up using it almost not at all. I thought I was going to use it in the studio and I just didn't really like using it. And so at the beginning of this summer, I thought, hey, I'm going to sell this thing. But before I sold it, I wanted to get out and actually use it in the real world. And you know what? This relatively cheap lens is pretty amazing. First of all, let's look at the build of this lens. It's built like a tank. It's a metal construction. It has an aperture ring and a focus ring, and that's about it. The focus ring is a little bit, it's clicky, but it doesn't stick too well. I've accidentally nudged it one way or another here and there. And then the focus ring itself is very nice and it feels really well dampened. And you don't accidentally throw this thing out of focus even remotely. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the most important thing that this lens could offer, and of course, it's image quality. And let me just say that this lens is only like 500 bucks, but it seems like it's much more expensive when you start to look at the photos. This is the first real photo I took with this lens outside of the studio, and when I saw it on the back of the camera, I thought it looked pretty good. But it wasn't until I got home on the computer where I thought, holy cow, this thing rocks. Even at the largest aperture, 2.8, the details are stunning. Although of course you're gonna get really thin depth of field, but at any range from ultra close to subjects that are a little farther away, this lens is it's really, really, really good. As usual, when you close down the aperture bit, you'll get sharper images, and Laowa, this is no different. But when we zoom in on one of the photos, you can see the level of detail present is truly fantastic across all the ranges. They call this lens a dreamer, and I think it's because the backgrounds can get pretty dreamy, right? The transition from the areas of focus to the way out of focus areas, it's really smooth. It just doesn't go abrupt from in focus to kind of blotchy out of focus. Each of these photos here, in my opinion, has beautiful background rendering. So I'm using the Nikon Z mount version of this lens, and I'm not sure if it's just this combination, but the rendering on the Z8, it's just killer. Most of the photos I've taken with this thing has needed very limited editing. Every photo just seems sharp, saturated, and naturally beautiful. The colors really, really look amazing. And this is another example of sequencing, telling stories at the small level. This is a caterpillar I found just out on my porch in my wife's garden. I used wide, medium, close format, right? The idea to tell the story of this moment, kind of like they do in Hollywood. And we can see the wide shot, the medium, and then some closer ones. When we get to the 2-to-1 macro level, you can see just how good this lens could be because I wasn't working in great light. And also how creepy nature can be, because I'm pretty sure that this incredibly crazy looking bug was in the newest Alien movie that just got released. As far as flaws go, I just don't really see very many. I mean, if you don't want to have a manual focus only lens, this is what this is. And the 2-to-1 ability is why I initially bought this, and 2-to-1 macro lenses are just difficult, right? It's not a flaw. This lens is just a flaw in general. My skill level is not quite there in order to really make the 2-to-1 work. Using a macro lens can be a lot of fun and gives us unique options for composition. And the Laowa does a fantastic job with this. These photos were taken with just a few slight changes of the focus, creating 3 very unique images. One of my favorite images taken recently was with this lens. I found this little bug on this flower, and the combination of sharpness on the bug and the flower combined with the brilliant color rendering, it's just wonderful. Again, they put Dreamer on the box of this lens, and this is definitely a dreamy photo. Here's a series showing the versatility of the lens. The first shot was taken quite a bit back from the Monarch to make sure I didn't scare it, but I slowly moved forward, and the Laowa was able to help me create fantastic images even when I got closer than 1:1 capability. Now, since this lens doesn't have autofocus, using the in-camera focus stacking isn't really possible, not automatically. But with good technique, you could still do focus stacking, but you're just gonna have to go manual. This is a focus stack of around 70 images. I took, using manual focus in Photoshop to stack, it works out fine, and in this photo you can see the incredible details this lens is capable of. A native macro lens with autofocus is gonna be probably easier to use. I mean, not probably, it's gonna be a little bit easier to use. But this is so good that I'm not even considering an autofocus macro lens from Nikon. I'm just fine with this one, and I actually get excited when I'm heading out to use it. So yeah, this thing, it's highly recommended, and I think it gives fantastic results for a really low cost. This lens has the chops to make incredibly beautiful images, and it costs less than $500. When you add in the 2:1 ability, the Laowa 100mm is a really good detail, and you get fantastic images like I'm showing you here. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe. Check out my links below to get some custom presets for Lightroom, and sign up for my newsletter while you're there, because I throw out some cool newsletters every once in a while. And until next time, keep taking photos and making the world more beautiful. Throw questions down below. I'd love to help you out.